Welcome everyone to our webinar, Fall Prevention and Vision Aids, facilitated by the Fall Prevention Community of Practice. My name is Shmiza Allard, and I am the Knowledge Coordinator at the Ontario Neurotrauma Foundation, also known as ONF. ONF sponsors the Fall Prevention Community of Practice, Loop and Loop Junior, along with the annual Fall Prevention Month campaign. So before we begin, I'd like to just give a quick orientation of the Zoom meeting platform. So your screen may look a little bit different depending on the type of computer that you're using. But if your Zoom application is open in full screen, you can double click or press the escape button on your keyboard to exit the full screen. There should also be a button at the top right corner of your screen that says exit full screen. So I'm just circled that here. And the webinar technology consists of two parts, audio and visual. Both audio and visuals are provided through your computer monitor or speakers. So to test or adjust your audio settings, look for the audio settings or join audio button at the bottom left corner of your screen. So this will provide options for testing your computer microphone and speakers. So if you look to the bottom center of your screen now, you will see buttons that will allow you to access the chat box, raise hand, and Q&A features on Zoom. The chat box allows you to send messages to webinar presenters and other webinar participants. You can use the raise hand button if you want me to connect with you through the chat box. And you can submit questions through the Q&A box. You will be able to only view questions that you have asked and not questions posed by other participants. So to simplify things a little bit, for technical questions, please use the chat box. And for topic-related questions, please use the Q&A box. And if you need to leave the webinar at any time, click the red Leave Meeting button in the bottom right corner of your screen, right here. So if you have any questions about the technology at any time during this presentation, please type them into the chat box. My colleague Marguerite and I will be monitoring this throughout the webinar. Alternatively, you can email me at shamiza.allard@onf.org. I've included my contact information in the chat box, and I'll work with you to resolve any issues as soon as possible. So the webinar is being recorded, and a YouTube link will be sent to all participants in about 1 week, along with the presentation slides. Okay, so I'd like to now introduce our presenter, Dr. Anna Juricic. So Dr. Anna Juricic is a leading authority and educator in the field of low vision in Canada. She graduated from the University of Waterloo School of Optometry in 1996. Dr. Juricic has been providing low vision services in Toronto since 2009. So for a complete bio of Dr. Juricic, please view the Zoom webinar invitation. So without further ado, please take it away. Dr. Juricic, you may now share your screen.
Just bear with me a moment. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me all right, Shamiza?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. And as Shamiza made note, I'm a low vision optometrist here in Toronto. And a majority of my patient base have vision loss of some degree. And my whole job, I always tell my patients, is to get them to see the best they can with the vision they still have. And a big concern that we always have is to make sure that the patients with the vision loss are safe and avoid any higher risk of possibly having a fall. So before I go into my presentation, I have a quick poll question just so I can get a better idea of who my audience is today.
Anna, I'm unable to see your screen. I'm not sure if anybody else is experiencing this. Want to maybe try sharing your screen one more time?
Sure, I will do that. Let me just try that one more time. And just bear with me one moment. And let's try this again. So are you able to see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. So now we're on. So as I said, I always like to get an idea of who my audience is. So what I'm going to do right now is ask in just a moment a quick poll question. So my poll question that I'm going to be asking of you today is, in what field of healthcare are you in? Are you in occupational therapy, physiotherapy, kinesiology, nursing, an eye healthcare professional, low vision therapist, or orientation and mobility specialist? Are you in government and or management, or none of the above? So if you could just take a few seconds and just hit which area of healthcare, if you are in healthcare, and which area you are in. Wonderful. Thank you for answering. So I do see a majority of the individuals on this webinar are in occupational therapy or physiotherapy, kinesiology and nursing, and some with government and management. So thank you so much. And with that, for all of those who are in healthcare, how many hours on average a week are you involved with direct patient care? Is it 0 to 5 hours, 6 to 10 hours, 11 to 20 hours, 21 to 30 hours, or 31 or more hours? Wonderful. So it's kind of all over the board in terms of how many patient hours. So thank you so much for giving me that insight. So with that, I want to first start off that back in May of 2015, there was a Canadian patient charter for vision care that was signed, and that was between the leaders in vision care, vision health, and the CNIB. And it was estimated that 5.5 million Canadians live with a vision-threatening eye condition, and of whom over 500,000 are blind or partially sighted. And a big thing that they wanted to come up with this Canadian patient charter for vision care is to allow patients to have timely referral and access to the full spectrum of care for their journey with vision loss. And so here are some facts about vision loss. So by the age of 65, 1 in 3 Canadians will have an eye disease leading to changes in their vision. 1 in 9 seniors will have irreversible vision loss. And with that, with the vision loss, it's very common that many lose their sense of independence. So vision loss can lead to declining health, disability, need to have assisted living either in their own home or to have to actually live in a retirement facility of some sort, increased risk of depression, and with our topic that we have today, that increased frequency of falls. So statistics of falls in Canada, 1 in 3 Canadians over the age of 65 are at risk of falling at least once. Having impaired vision more than doubles the risk of falls. Back in 2016 to 2017, they reviewed all of the emergency department visits in Canada, and they found that there was 1,800 reported visits for unintentional falls per day in hospitals throughout Canada, and 417 hospital stays every day. And yesterday, two of the patients that I end up seeing both commented that they've had a history of falls. So one was a 93-year-old lady who I saw, and she had already fallen twice. Once was last year, and the one previous to that was in 2017. So how do we avoid vision loss? Vision loss is avoidable under regular care of an optometrist. And with that, with a comprehensive eye examination, we often can detect any eye health or vision problems before they have a toll on day-to-day life. So we do encourage that for seniors, they do have an annual eye examination. More often if they're being monitored for an eye condition or if there's a family history of a condition that we're concerned about, or we're seeing early changes that warrant more frequent eye examinations. If someone's between the ages of 20 and 65, we recommend every 2 years, sooner again, if there's something that we're monitoring, be it that they have an eye condition that we might be concerned about or early signs of it, or there could be a family history of an eye condition that we're concerned about. With children, we recommend every year. First eye exam, we actually recommend at the age of 6 months for a quick assessment to make sure that that baby, everything is as it should be for their age. There's certain things that we monitor. And then after that, it's really about the age of 3 for another routine examination if everything was fine at 6 months, and yearly afterwards. So when we have the patient in the exam room, we get to see quite a lot beyond just determining which is better, 1 or 2, when it comes to glasses. And this is an image of a doctor looking at a patient using a biomicroscope or a slit lamp. And this tool is the one that I love using every time I see a patient because it gives me the insight of what's going on with their eyes. So it's a very important component of a routine eye examination. So here's another poll question. How many clients or patients a month do you see who actually have vision loss? Is it 0 to 5, 6 to 20, 21 to 50, or 51 or more? I'll just give you a few more moments and then we'll see what the poll question results are. Wonderful. So a majority, 47%, see 60 to 20 patients or clients with vision loss. Whenever I speak to any of the eye care professionals, because I do quite a few lectures throughout the year, or if I'm doing just general education lectures to those with vision loss or their family members, one thing that I really stress with the healthcare professionals is to really think about that person that they're seeing with vision loss and to try to put themselves in that person's shoes and really think what life might be like for them. And I often say, would you do everything you could if it was your family member or yourself to know about all the different options that are available for you? And that's how I approach every single patient I ever see. My job is to maximize their vision, as I said earlier, to allow them to see the things that are most important to them so they can live more independently and do the things that, like I said, are quite important to them. So vision loss can lead to 6 times increased risk of depression. And when we talk about depression, often that means that if someone stops doing the things that they enjoy doing for 2 weeks or longer, there is a good chance that they can fall into a depressive state. And I tell my patients that it is common that they might have bouts of depression. We get concerned if those bouts of depression land them in an area where they stay depressed for longer periods of time, because it becomes more challenging for them to get out of that state unless they do have a great network of family, friends, or other caregivers or healthcare professionals who can help get them out of that state. And if someone's more depressed, they may not be paying attention to things that are around them. So safety concerns become more of an issue. They might not realize that the rug is a little bit folded and they can easily trip and fall, or they've left something on the ground, or family members have left things on the ground because they really aren't paying attention to everything that's around them. So here is the last poll question of the webinar. Do you yourself have a family member or friend who is living with vision loss? Yes or no? So a majority of people on this webinar do know of someone with vision loss. So the information I'm about to convey for you is not only necessarily for many of you, your patients or clients, people that you work with, but it also can be relevant to your own family member or friends that you know. So did you know that 1 in 3 Canadians will suffer from vision loss by the age of 75? 1 in 3 will have difficulty reading the paper, driving, watching TV, identifying people's faces, and have that increased risk of falls. So the main causes of vision loss, to give you an overview, is macular degeneration, glaucoma, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, hereditary conditions, and ocular injuries. So I'm just going to give a quick summary about the eye and some of these conditions I've just mentioned. So when we talk about the eye, every aspect of the eye has to be in complete working order to optimize someone's vision and get them to that 20/20 mark, if not better than 20/20. And that goes right from the front part of the eye, the cornea, which is a clear window of the eye, to the lens of the eye that with time and age eventually develops into a cataract, to the back of the eye with the retinal cells that have the photoreceptor cells, and the macula, which is responsible for the most finest detailed vision. And all of this transmits information to the optic nerve, and the optic nerve is directly connected to the brain all the way back to the occipital lobe. So every aspect from that cornea all the way to the back of the eye with the occipital lobe has to be in working order for someone to see as clearly as possible. And if any aspect along this way is damaged in any way, it will cause different degrees of vision loss. So to start with, macular degeneration is a leading cause of vision loss in the Western world, and approximately 2 million Canadians and 13 million Americans were affected by macular degeneration. And as I mentioned, macular is responsible for the finest detail vision, and it's at the back of the eye. It's made up of 10 layers of retinal cells. And if any of these retinal cells are disrupted, it will cause distorted vision. And when we talk about macular degeneration, some of you may know that there's two forms that we talk about, a dry form and a wet form. In the dry form, it affects 85% of individuals, and the wet form is approximately 15%. And with the dry, there is various degrees of vision loss. It could just be a very slight impairment. It could be that they're no longer able to see for driving, but they still have usable vision that with magnification we can help. 10 to 20% have very severe vision loss where their vision might be that big E, that 2200 or less. In macular degeneration with the wet, it often causes 80 to 90% of the severe vision loss. And currently there are some treatments that are being done for those with the wet form to try to preserve as much of the vision. And this is often where they're going in on a monthly basis or every few weeks to see the ophthalmologist, and they're getting an injection in their eye or medications being put in to help decrease how much fluid or bleeding is accumulating at the back of the eye. Unfortunately, it's not a one-off treatment, but they have to go for multiple treatment ongoing, and for many, it's an indefinite period of time. But we have found it has helped people maintain some of the vision so they don't lead to that full vision loss that was very common 10 plus years ago. So with macular degeneration, or another condition, Stargardt's, which is often referred to as a juvenile form of a macular type degeneration, which is an inherited condition, it affects the central area of vision. So in this picture, you see there is a boy, or you think it may be a boy. He's holding a soccer ball. You can see his one hand is resting on his hip, but the person's not able to see the detail of the face. And not to be able to see the detail of people's faces, especially family members, is quite devastating for many. When we talk about glaucoma, glaucoma affects about 350,000 Canadians, and many of these individuals have, or at least half of them, have no idea that they have glaucoma. It's what we call the silent eye disease, and this is where going for a routine examination with the optometrist or ophthalmologist is so important, because we can see early changes even before it might have vision loss that a patient can identify. And often it's a slow progressive condition where it affects the side vision first and can cause a tunneling of vision. And the damage that happens to the optic nerve in glaucoma is often irreversible. And these individuals are the ones that are often given eye drops that they have to be taking on a daily basis. Depending on the severity of their glaucoma, they might have multiple drops that they have to use. Really important that they do it as advised and prescribed by their eye doctor. And some have to even have other surgical or laser procedures because the drops alone are not controlling that pressure in the eye, and more damage is happening to the optic nerve. So with glaucoma, as I mentioned, it's a peripheral field of vision loss. So some people can still have fairly good central vision, but it affects their peripheral vision. And you can have someone with glaucoma who has 20/20 vision, 20/25 vision, but if they don't have 120 degrees of side vision or more, then they're not legally able to drive. And it's devastating for these individuals because they want to be able to be independent. But their vision, even though they're meeting the legal limits of the visual acuity part of a driver's license, they're not meeting that peripheral vision. And cataracts is the cloudiness of the natural part of the natural lens of the eye, and it's located behind that color part, the iris. It affects more than 2.5 million Canadians. And often the solution for cataracts when it starts impairing the vision to a certain level is to have it removed with cataract surgery. And this has become mainstream. The procedure doesn't take too long at all. It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes for the surgeon to remove the cataract. However, there are some individuals where the cataract can actually possibly put them, if they have cataract surgery, at increased risk of losing vision or having a consequence that they'll actually contradict doing the surgery for that patient. And so with cataracts, it's an overall blurriness of the vision, and it can vary from person to person, depending on the cataract, if it's evenly growing, or if they even have areas where it's almost spoke-like, where there's actually areas of opacity that are a lot denser. With diabetic retinopathy, it affects approximately 2 million Canadians. 2 million Canadians are diabetic, and about 500,000 of them have diabetic retinopathy. And this can definitely vary in terms of severity of how much the diabetic retinopathy may be affecting an individual. And it's a leading cause of new cases of blindness among those between 20 and 64. And so diabetic retinopathy, I often will compare the vision to be more Swiss cheese-like, where there'll be patches of area where they may see better. If there's active bleeding at the back of the eye, it'll actually affect that area a little bit more so. Some people may have some treatments in terms of laser treatments, or there might be some injections, and others will have some scarring at the back of the eye where we just can't repair that tissue that's been damaged. And that's the same thing when we talk about macular degeneration. If there's scarring there, we can improve that area with any kind of laser treatment or the injections. Once the tissue is scarred over, there's no way of reversing the damage that's there. Retinitis pigmentosa is a hereditary condition that affects 1 in 3,500 Canadians. And similar concept to the glaucoma, where it's a peripheral field loss first. This one, you can kind of compare it to a very tunneled field of vision. And it starts usually affecting individuals in their teens, 20s, and 30s. But there are some people who are not diagnosed until they're in their 50s or 60s. And that's because they have a variant form of retinitis pigmentosa. And I often give the analogy, it's almost like looking through a straw. So if you close one eye and look through the straw, you have that tunneled vision. And so when we have this peripheral field loss, these are the individuals that will be more at risk of falling, similar to individuals with glaucoma with a peripheral field loss. If they're walking and they're not looking straight down at the ground, they may not see the uneven step. They may not see that there's a curve there. They may not even see that somebody left the laundry basket in the hallway in a rush, and they can actually flip over that laundry basket and trip and fall because they did not see it, because they weren't looking down at the ground. And some individuals with retinitis pigmentosa also have hearing loss. This is about 20 to 30% of them. And these are the individuals that we say have the Usher syndrome. So not only do they have the vision impairment, they may not even be able to hear the car honking at them, that there's a car coming. And so safety can be a very big concern. And these are the individuals that we really encourage to openly be using their white cane where they're navigating. Because some people, and a slide I'm going to mention, don't actually like using the white cane. They don't want to let people know that they have a vision loss, especially a lot of people who are younger. Albinism is another congenital or hereditary condition, and it affects the pigmentation in their eyes and in their skin. So some people, it's just maybe their eyes, and you wouldn't be able to tell that they have the ocular albinism. If it affects their skin and their hair, where they're a lot paler, that is one that actually affects all areas of the pigment. And these individuals, no matter what degree of albinism they have, are often very, very light sensitive. And these are the individuals that when they come from outside, they're usually wearing their sunglasses, and when they come inside, takes their eyes quite a while to adapt to coming inside. So if they're at the front door and their shoes that have been not put away, they can easily trip and fall. Or if they're coming into a new building that they've never navigated through, they might not see that there's a step. They may not see that the ground is sloping. So mobility is a big issue for these individuals, and using a white cane is often encouraged as well. Someone who might have had a stroke or an ischemic optic neuropathy, this affects portions of their visual field. And often in a stroke, it'll be one half of their visual field is affected, and it could be in both eyes or one eye. And with ischemic optic neuropathy, it's often either the lower half or the upper half field. So again, if it's that lower half, they're not going to be seeing those curves, the stairs, if they don't know how to actually utilize the vision that they still have. And some of these individuals will encourage using the prism, using the white cane, having proper orientation and mobility done with them, where they can actually be told tips and ways to navigate to keep themselves safe. And this is something we also encourage for those who especially have glaucoma, retinitis pigmentosa, to have an orientation and mobility assessment to keep them safe in the navigating. And also those with central vision loss, if it really is impairing their mobility. So what is the difference between legally blind and low vision? There is a difference. To be legally blind, it means their central acuity is 2200 or less in the better eye, even with corrective lenses, or their peripheral field of vision is 20 degrees or less. So someone can have 20/20 central vision, but still have less than 20 degrees field of vision loss, and they will be considered legally blind. Low vision is anyone whose visual central acuity is 20/70 or less with correction, or if they do have limitation with their side vision as well, but it's not impaired down to that 20-degree level. So here's a fact: 80 to 90% of legally blind individuals have some degree of usable vision. So if I see a patient who has 2200 vision or even a little bit less, there are ways that I can still help them see the best and maximize their vision, or my colleagues who also provide low vision rehab services. Only 2% of legally blind people are using a guide dog, and only 35% are using a white cane, according to the Braille Institute. So when we talk about people with vision loss, there are so many various faces. So we have the young babies, we have the toddlers, middle-aged individuals, and we have our seniors. And with how we have many different faces, there are also many different solutions. So what may help one person may not help another person who has the exact same condition and very similar vision. So it's very individualized and catered to each person when they go in for a low vision rehab assessment. So what solutions are available? This is where I get excited, because this is what I get to do with the majority of my patients. So as I said earlier, a low vision exam is there to provide solutions to maximize the intact vision that an individual still has. And with a low vision exam, it is different than a routine exam. A low vision rehab assessment is customized to each individual patient, as I mentioned, and it usually takes a lot longer. It's 1 to 1.5 hours. Vision goals are the focus at the beginning of the assessment. They need to be addressed. We need to know what that patient wants to be able to see. Or is it that it's important for them to be able to read, to see faces, watch TV, go to sporting events, or go to the theater? And it's so important that you address the solutions based on what that person wants to be able to see and do. And it always starts with an updated refraction to see, can we improve the vision with glasses? And myself and colleagues who do low vision rehab assessments, there's ways that we can sometimes tweak that prescription, and that we use some prism. It could be that we have to use special tinted lenses to address the glare and photosensitivity. And the glasses alone will only get them to a certain point with their vision. And that's where other vision aids start to be shown. It's distance viewing aids, near viewing aids, and the part that I get excited about is all the new electronic digital devices and technology that has become available for those living with vision loss. And these are specialized exams, and in many provinces, it is something that a patient would have to pay for this type of examination. So main vision goals that are often addressed near, I would say, is my number one goal that patients mention. They want to be able to read their newspaper and books, or read medication bottles, or be able to see price tags and labels. When it comes to distance, seeing the faces of loved ones is such a huge thing. Being able to watch TV again, or to go to the theater or to live events. I had one lady who she loves going to the Raptors games, and she wants to be able to see the Raptors playing. Glare is a big issue, and we often talk about glare in terms of sunlight glare, but indoor lighting can be a tremendous issue to a lot of people, especially when they go to newer grocery stores that have a lot of the bright LED type lights. Glare off the computer screen can also be an issue as well. Another topic to be mentioned is medication side effects, because medication can also cause dizziness, dryness, can affect vision. If someone's having difficulty seeing, there's also a risk of them taking too much of the medicine, taking the incorrect medication. I had a patient last week that mentioned that the wife actually has a hearing issue, and the husband was given a type of antibiotic, and he was supposed to take one tablet for the next 6 days. And she thought it was 6 tablets every day. Luckily, the daughter had caught the error, because that could have had detrimental health effects to this gentleman. But with that, there can be double the risk of falls, triple the risk of depression, especially if there's actually the side effects of multiple medications that people are on. I often tell my patients when I look at their list of medication, if someone's only on 1 or 2 medications, that's not too bad. When I have that list of 5, 10 medicines that they're on, I'll often say that they're definitely keeping the pharmacy too busy. Um, and we know that, yes, they have to take some of these medications, but there's also that risk of there might be interactions, and it could put them at an increased risk of falls. And if they do fall, it puts them at a quadruple risk of having a hip fracture. And when we talk about hip fractures, we know that it could affect life expectancy of that individual, especially if they are a senior, and depending on their health condition as well. So often, as I said, a good refraction, determining the best possible glasses, is very key for all low vision rehab assessments. And the patient will often ask, well, can't you just make the glasses stronger? And the analogy I often give is that if we make the glasses stronger for the distance, it's like going up a mountain or a hill. When we get to the peak of the mountain, that's the ideal vision. And if we keep making it stronger, it starts impairing or makes the vision blurry. So there is only a very certain range where we will optimize the vision in the distance with glasses alone. But we can make glasses stronger for reading, and the stronger we give the magnification, the closer they'll have to hold that reading material to them. So it's really important that we educate these individuals when we give them a much higher reading power, because if they're incorrectly looking through the bifocal or progressive lens, and we've given them more magnification for reading, and they look down into that zone as they look at the floor or as they're walking, that floor looks more magnified. So that perception of the floor is as if it's closer to them. They can easily miss a step, and there's that risk of falling. And often, if there's cognitive issues with the patient that I have, I may not recommend incorporating that higher power into a bifocal or progressive, but into a separate reading glass, where it could be used when they have a caregiver or family member who can supervise, because these individuals may not remember that they have to tip their chin down, look to the top of the lens, so they can see properly when they're walking. Glare cutting lenses, as I mentioned, there's various tints. I do a lot with the Corning lenses. So these are similar colors to that top photo of these young boys. And the actual Corning lenses, when they are proper Corning lenses that come from the US, they're photochromatic, which means that they have the ability to change in darkness. So it might be yellow indoors, and then when they go outside with the UV light exposure, it deepens in color, and then it comes back to the yellow or the orange inside, depending on the type they have. There's noir tints, fit overs. Polarized sunglasses is highly recommended if someone's sensitive with the snow or if they're spending a lot of time on the water or sailing. Blue blocking lenses is something that we address, especially for individuals who have more issues with macular, because the blue wavelengths of light can cause more scatter at the macular level. So this can make a difference looking at the computer screen, at their cell phones. And there's versions that have where perfectly clear and it's a special coating, and others that have a very light tint. And it's been surprising over the last few years how many of my patients who used to go with the Corning, now that the new lightly tinted blue blocking lenses are available, radiate more to those lenses. I always like to include this slide of the lead singer from U2, the Irish band, and Bono here is wearing the glare blocking sunglasses in the orange tint. And he revealed back in 2014 he was wearing these tinted lenses not as a fashion statement, but because he's actually now, as of this year, I think we've been living with glaucoma now for about 20 years, so the glare is a big issue for him. So the goal of the low vision exam, as I mentioned, was to address the patient goals, increase that sense of independence, decrease risk of depression, and address any safety issues. So we've talked about glasses and tints. Now this is a part that I really spend that extra time with patients. So one way to decrease that risk of depression, if reading is important, is to get them to read again. So a lot of people are aware of just traditional magnifiers. There's some that you can just put on the page, or the handheld ones, the high-powered reading glasses. There are limitations to this with many individuals because they're only seeing a few words at a time. And if someone used to be an avid reader, they feel when they use these kind of magnifiers that they're back in kindergarten or grade school and they're just learning to read because they're only seeing a few words at a time. And often the avid readers were really quick readers, so it slows them down and they get angry or they get upset because it's not the way they would love to be able to read again. So that's where digital reading devices have really made a tremendous impact for many individuals. And I do a lot of these with my patients. And there's various ones. Some are portable and handheld, so they can use it to look at their medication, they can use it to sign checks, and they can even use it for their nails. They can use it to read if they don't need too much magnification. But I'm a bigger fan of the ones with the larger screens, because now with these larger screen ones, they can fit it over the newspaper and see the whole column depending on their vision. Or they can put over a newspaper article or a magazine, or even on small paperback books. And there's one that I don't have shown here, which is my favorite, and it actually has a touch screen. So as it's magnifying, they can actually move the print with their finger and keep the fluidity of the reading. Another one is the CCTV. So these are the big, large reading machines. I often say they're kind of like the Cadillac of reading machines. Somebody needs to have the real estate in their home for something like this, because this is not portable. It weighs a good 40 pounds. So wherever they position it, that's where they'd have to keep it. But there's also great magnifying programs and other computer programs that are available for the computer. And a lot of the patients with vision loss are appreciating those, or some have the OCR readers where you can read back the text to them. When it comes to distance viewing, we have our head-borne telescopes and binoculars. And this is what I do a lot with my patients to be able to see the faces, to watch TV, especially if they don't have a large screen TV, then these make a big difference. But with this being said, puts them at a high risk of falling or tripping if they're not using it properly, because it magnifies everything they're looking at. So that floor may look much closer again. So if they are using this, they have to either take it off when they're walking, or the one on the right you'll see in a moment, you can flip up. So here was one of my patients that we were able to flip up this sight scope, a telescopic aid, that she was able to see her daughter, and she was able to use it for watching TV and even going to some live events and festivals. There's great advancements when it comes to new high-tech vision aids. And so this is one of them. It's called the eSight electronic eyewear, and it's eSight 3. A Canadian company has created this device, and they've had a few renditions over the last few years. And it came about because the owner of the company, his two sisters, had Stargardt's. They lived with it, and he got to watch it over 30 years, all the various vision aids that they were using, and he had done well in the tech industry. And wanting to see how can he use technology of today to help those with vision loss, not only his sister, but his two sisters, but other people who are living with vision loss. But this is one, again, that will make the floor look more magnified. So if you ever see a patient who has these aids, they need to make sure that they're using the bioptic feature where they can tilt up the head-borne unit. So it almost looks like a virtual reality screen. So they're looking below the unit when it comes to walking, or they take it off. But this is unique because this device allows the user to be able to see distance, intermediate, and near, whereas most of the other aids I talked about are either for distance or near. Here's another one that they've actually used a Samsung smartphone with a virtual reality headset. And again, this one's going to cover up that field of vision. So it is for stationary use. It's not used for walking. Orcam is an impressive technology from Israel, and I've been watching this company since 2013. It came to the US in 2015 and finally in Canada in 2016. And I was one of the first to have this device in Canada. And what I like about this device is it can help my patients of any degree of vision loss, even those who are completely blind. So what it does, it's a smart, intuitive camera system that attaches to the side of the glasses with the magnet, and it will actually convert text to speech. So someone can hold the newspaper and it will read back the information on that newspaper, a magazine, a book. It can identify up to 100 known faces. So they save the face of a loved one. And so if that person walks into the room and they can't see that they've come in, it would identify that person by the name, how it's been saved. It'll tell you it's 10 Canadian dollars that the person's holding, or it could be that they're holding 20 US dollars. It'll just say $20. It can tell you the time by either you looking down at your wrist with a gesture as if you're checking a watch, even though you don't have a watch on your wrist. And it'll tell you the time. Or you can use auditory commands where you tell the unit to say, tell time, and it would actually announce the time to the user. There's actually been some great new features that they've just added. So last week at the annual Las Vegas Consumer Electronics Show, they revealed that there's actually going to be new innovative technology to the software that's coming. So I'm going to show you in a quick moment what they've just incorporated, which is called the Orcam Interactive Orientation. And I spoke to my colleague in Israel this morning that I was going to do this webinar. So he's provided this YouTube clip that isn't yet published for all to see. So you actually get to be some of the first people in all the world to see what this interactive orientation is all about. So it's a quick 38 seconds. I'm going to play it right now, then I'll speak about it afterwards.
What's in front of me?
One door to your left and one door to your right.
Guide me to the left door. What's in front of me?
Two people are in front of you, one empty chair to your right.
Guide me to the empty chair. Hi. Wow.
So as I said, this is absolutely cutting edge, impressive technology that they're using artificial intelligence to allow people of various degrees of vision loss or even who are completely blind be able to navigate. So, you know, a GPS will tell somebody where they may have to go, but it doesn't tell you that there's a door in front. It doesn't give you the cues, as this will be allowing an individual to know that they're going in the right direction by that increased frequency of the beeping. And the Orcam can even pick up words that are in the distance. So this was at a conference last year, and it was able to read that PowerPoint. And the user here, Nada, the sales rep, was a good 100 to 120 feet back from that PowerPoint, and it was able to identify and read it back. And you see how it's just regular font size that you often see in PowerPoints. Ira is an augmented reality smart glass that a person is connected to a trained professional, and it uses the camera and the Wi-Fi capabilities, and the person at the computer is actually navigating and giving the information to the user. And depending on how much information that person needs, the trained professional, will give as much detail as a person wants or as little detail as they want. But it's been a tremendous help for many people who have vision loss, and I know a few patients who are using this technology. The smartphone has been the most revolutionary advancement for those visually impaired and blind since Braille, and Braille just turned 200 years of age last year. So one of the reasons is that it can actually have it has built-in features. So it has zoom magnification, contrast adjustments, voiceover, you have your Siri or your talking virtual assistants, and so many apps. And you might have noticed a lot of my slides, I have the print white on the darker background. And that's because 7 out of 10 of my patients do appreciate white on black or yellow on black prints. Be My Eyes is a free app, so similar to the Eyewear that I just showed you, but you have volunteers around the world who are willing to help somebody, and they're using the camera from the person's smartphone, and they can give them information of whatever they're asking of that person who's willing to volunteer and help someone who's partially sighted or blind. Seeing AI is a free app from Microsoft, and it's been designed by someone who's completely blind. And again, it's using AI technology and narrates the world around them. Navigation apps, we have Blind Square and various beacon technology that's available. This is interesting. It's using echolocation, and ultrasonic detection. So the Sono band is almost like a Fitbit, but it's detecting if there's objects around the person. It could be a hanging basket. It could be that there's a cabinet, similar to the buzz clip. And so it starts vibrating if the person's getting closer and closer to that, it could be a door or an obstacle. It could be that they're actually going towards a glass window or a wall, and it would detect it because it's bouncing off the glass. Voice activated assistants. You know, we have our Google Homes and our Alexas. This is great technology that people can have in their homes, so they can actually ask it, you know, what's the weather today? Ask it if they're a sports fan. What was the score with the Raptors game? And use them in various ways. So especially if someone who's a senior living on their own, they're at least getting an interaction, even though it's voice activated assistant, not a real person, but it can help them know what's happening in their world. So sometimes the solutions may look different. If it allows a person to live more independently and minimize depression, is it worth it? It's all about helping people see again, see the things that are most important to them. And some other quick tips when we talk about low vision are color, contrast, and using various cues or information that they know from before. So high contrast color tape on stairs, you having a different paint door frame color as opposed to what the wall color is, so it's a higher contrast. Using opaque cups and dishes rather than a clear glass. Having good lighting in the home, so having the night lights, sconces, task lights. If they have poor vision in the nighttime, using a flashlight. Good lighting in the bathroom, using high contrast towels and mats can help, especially that are non-slip. Another big area that I'm really big about, and that's why I want to know who is a part of the audience, is cross-collaboration with the healthcare field. And it's to let people know that there is help available if they have vision loss. There's various resources. We have the low vision eye care professionals, and I'll let you know, there's not too many of us in Canada who really dedicate ourselves to low vision rehab. But find out in your community if there is somebody. We have the CNIB in the Vision Rehab of Ontario. So I work a lot with the CNIB. They refer to me for things that they can't do, and I refer to their services for the things like high tech or the orientation and mobility, or I use other services like Balance for Blind Adults that's located here in Toronto. We have the Vision Institute, the OCAD Vision Technology Services in Toronto for high tech assessments. For patients who want more information about what's happening in terms of vision research, Fighting Blindness Canada, Canadian Council for the Blind, Toronto Visionaries. So in your community, there might be other resources, so find out what it might be. Let's tap into these auxiliary healthcare professionals, the certified low vision therapists, the certified orientation mobility specialists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists. Let's work together. Each province is a little bit different, so unfortunately we don't have a great working national model. But if we can get more of a model where we're using the certified low vision therapists, orientation mobility, the low vision occupational therapists, to help with those with vision loss as they do in the US, I think we're going to be making a bigger impact for our patients who do live with vision loss. Things to protect eyes, patients are always asking, or family members: 100% UV blocking sunglasses and hats. Eat green leafy vegetables, colorful fruits. If you're not eating a lot of that, that's where the multivitamins come into play. Yearly eye exams are sooner. Smoking can put your risk of macular degeneration eye conditions up by 6 times. So stop smoking or having someone stop smoking is very much encouraged. I've done a pilot project with the CNIB Vision Loss Rehab where I'm able to have their workers go into the home to provide additional home training with my patients when they get the new technology. And we've gotten really positive results. We started this program last year, and hopefully we'll be able to launch it in other communities around Canada. Let people know who have vision loss they're not alone. There is a community of individuals out there. Find out those local groups. We have in Toronto the Tandem Bike Club, the Trailblazers. We have the Ski Club, the Blind Sailing, the Toronto Ice Owls hockey team. Canadian Council for the Blind Toronto Visionaries group that they have has great support groups. And I know that Canadian Council for the Blind has other support groups around Canada. So my challenge to you, find out who in your area provides low vision rehab services. Find out what local organizations and healthcare professionals are available to help so you can refer clients and patients. If you're one of these organizations or healthcare professionals, reach out, let people know that you provide this service so they know. Educate the eye care professionals, the optometrists and ophthalmologists. Not all of them know what's out there. That's why I do a lot of lectures. I'm always constantly trying to share my knowledge and let them know. So educate the individuals that you meet. Let them know help is available. With cross-collaboration, we can make a difference. Because my feeling is everyone deserves to see the beautiful things in life. These are my 4 beautiful things in life. So now that's the conclusion of my webinar. And what I'd like to do is I'll definitely open it up so we can answer any questions that you may have as well. So let me get into the screen that I can actually have us connect.
Okay, while Anna's doing that, so thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation and sharing your extensive knowledge on low vision. So participants, now I encourage you, if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box and Anna will happily answer them. So I did see that we got one question actually in the chat box, so I'll address that right now. So one person asked if it's possible to get the handouts to refer back to at a later time.
So Shamiza, I believe you said you're going to be able to provide the PowerPoint. It will be up online.
That is correct. So, but if you have any additional resources, feel free to send them my way and I can post them on Loop as well.
Absolutely. And you would have seen at the end of my presentation, I did include my private email address. So if you do have questions, by all means, you can direct it directly to me at drlowvision.com. So Dr. Juricic at drlowvision.com. So somebody asked, Anne has asked, what is the cost of the ORCAM? So the cost of the ORCAM is $5,800 Canadian. And unfortunately, it's something that here in Ontario, the Assistive Devices Program, or ADP, that offers some assistance for vision aids, has decided not to cover any of the ORCAM device. The only province that I know that does have some funding, there are quite a few loopholes to get the funding though, is in Alberta. And the last time I heard, they helped cover about $3,000 of the ORCAM device. And I often tell patients for any of these kind of high-tech devices to keep their receipt and use it as a medical expense in their income taxes. I see Alexa has asked, what types of funding programs have you been successful with for people to purchase these electronic assistive devices, CNIB, Merchant Loans? So most of the electronic assistive devices do not get the assistive devices program eligibility, or ADP, in Ontario, unless it may be the bigger CCTVs and the person has gone to a high-tech assessment, or some of the computer magnifying programs and special computers that they can use. Unfortunately, when we talk about ADP in Ontario, a lot of the fee schedules are based on 20 years ago, and they have not opened up on including a lot of this new technology. They only cover a very little amount on portable digital devices, so those are the handheld digital magnifiers, and they only cover 125, and those devices usually are approximately $600 or so for the portable versions. And I do tell patients to contact the Lions Club, their local Lions Club, because Lions Club does have a mandate to help with vision. And I have told people about the March of Dimes. CNIB is there to do the high-tech assessments, and sometimes they may get donations where somebody has donated back to them a previously used device, so that's always an option for a person as well. So Julie LaRock has asked if low vision assessments are covered by OHIP in Ontario. In Ontario, if it's a low vision optometrist primarily doing the assessment, there is no current fee schedule from OHIP that will pay for a low vision assessment by an optometrist directly. There are a few low vision ophthalmologists. There's not very many of them at all, but they do have some funding for their low vision assessments. We've been working with the Ministry of Health to have low vision assessments be covered by both optometry and ophthalmology. And still we haven't had any kind of updates at this point in time on that. So hopefully we'll know more in 2020. And let's see, so I see a few of the questions we have. The seniors, anonymous attendee has asked, the seniors I work with struggle with finances. Many of them cannot afford to update their glasses. I'm from BC. Can you speak of any programs that can assist with the cost of basic glasses? That's where I would have somebody look into the Lions Club in BC to see if they can get some funding from the Lions Club. I have another question here in terms of, do private insurance companies cover any of the low vision aids in Ontario? So in terms of private insurance companies, if it's eyeglasses or contacts, those are usually the aids that insurance companies are aware, and they will provide the assistance based on how much insurance a person has. There are some exceptions, and that's if somebody might have a flex plan account where they can use X amount of dollars in a year, and it could be used for psychotherapy, physiotherapy, massage therapy. In those cases, we've had a few people who are successful, and they were able to utilize some of that flex plan account to help with vision aids outside of glasses and contacts. Is there a directory for low vision rehab professionals? There's not a formal directory, unfortunately, but if that's something that is of interest, I do have a colleague who does low vision optometrist, who actually does have the database of it, and it could be something that we can possibly suggest that a directory is created, that people have more access. In some colleges of optometry, when you look to find an optometrist, or in their association of optometrists on the websites, there may be a way to highlight that you're looking for someone who provides low vision. If you check off that box, they may be able to filter the database to let you know who does provide low vision services. Anne has another question. She's asked, how can I best advocate for my 95-year-old mother who is legally blind in LTC, where there is little recreation programming for those with vision? I'm not sure. Oh, long-term care, sorry. That's something to bring up to some of the coordinators who might be doing the programming. Your mother is most likely not the only one who has vision loss in the long-term care facility. So I would definitely bring it up to one of the recreation program directors and let them know that is there ways to maybe make some accommodation. I've actually gone years ago where I've gone into nursing homes and I've done presentations and I've educated the individuals. And it came as a need because one of my patients living at the home had asked if I could maybe come and do a presentation. And there were many people who found what I had to present and show in terms of various vision aids. They had no clue it existed. I often even encourage to see if possibly a retirement or long-term care facility, if they do have funding to spend, to possibly get a closed-circuit television or CCTV that could be used in the common area, so that way a person can bring the reading material to that common area, and it's not just for them, but other people with vision loss, especially if possibly that patient alone can't afford to buy these devices because of the cost barrier.
Awesome. So it's 1 o'clock. So we're just going to maybe sign off now. So thank you to all our participants for joining us and engaging in such a great discussion. And again, thank you, Dr. Anna Juricic, for such a wonderful presentation. So for more information about the Fall Prevention Committee of Practice, please visit Loop at fallsloop.com. And when the webinar has ended, you'll be redirected to Zoom and invited to participate in a very short evaluation survey. So click the blue continue button on your browser and you'll be redirected to the survey. And we'd appreciate it, if you could provide any kind of feedback so we can continue to offer high quality webinars such as these. So that's all for now. Thank you all and have a wonderful day and see you next time.
Thank you.